Look, I hate housework as much as the next girl, but a witch and her broom is sort of a tale as old as time. And it's so worth it to explore the lore of the Besom, especially for witches, and especially for anybody who just wants to learn a bit of witchery. So today I want to talk about the lore behind the witch's broom, from the first person who actually admitted to witchcraft, to fertility rituals, to hallucinogenics. So let's hang out and talk about the Besom. So, as I mentioned, the idea of a witch flying around on a broom is like really hardly a new idea. And whenever I say it, I bet that an image immediately pops in your mind. Like maybe from MGM's 1939 Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch flying around on her broom immediately for me. Or maybe Harry Potter playing Quidditch, or some old Halloween imagery, or even the opening sequence of Bewitched. But you might be surprised to know that the first recorded image that we have of a witch flying on a broomstick was published in 1451 by Martin Lefranc, and it comes from a book called Le Champion des Dames. And don't make fun of the way I pronounce some of this French stuff. I am a girl from a small town in Pennsylvania. I'm trying. Now, of course, the broomsticks that are depicted in all of these medieval and ancient materials look a lot different than what we use to sweep our houses today. Typically they were a large stick with a bundle of twigs or reeds attached to them. Actually, a broom comes from a plant called a broom, and those plants were typically used to make one. So it looks slightly different, but still the same idea, used to sweep the hearth and home. And actually, we can find evidence that we were using brooms to sweep our hearth and home all the way back to like the 2nd century AD in the New Testament of the Bible. So we've been using those a long time. Now, not to be any type of way, but of course, brooms always kind of denoted a sort of phallic energy. And since women were the ones using them, things got, kind of sexual sort of fast as far as the imagery of witches and broomsticks went. Since sweeping was women's work and considered proper, I guess, that ended up making things sort of feminine and attractive. And a broom sort of became the symbol of what a woman should be. And it was very easy to move on from the original depictions of women riding brooms to, the ones that we started seeing with scantily clad, naked women riding brooms, which sort of aided in the whole sexualization of witches and them being cast as evil temptresses and, patriarchy things, which is all sort of ironic because the first person who actually admitted to witchcraft and flying on a broom was a man named Guillaume Edelin, who was a priest who was arrested and tried for witchcraft in 1453 for speaking out against the church's beliefs in witchcraft. He ultimately ended up suffering a much more kind fate than, people who came after him, because while he did admit to witchcraft, he ended up serving a life sentence after he repented, instead of, like most of the other people who were victims of witch trials in Europe. Now, besoms have always had their place in pagan fertility rituals, and we actually have evidence of that from as far back as 1584 in Reginald Scott's book, The Discovery of Witches, where he actually describes a pagan fertility ritual that he says that he witnessed, in which he says that they are never without dancing, and every time they danced, they held a broom aloft above their heads. And that really creates some great imagery for me. And I often wonder if it's true or if it was just part of the Inquisition that he came up with these images to satisfy the minds of witch hunters. You know what I mean? Anyway, farmers were also known to practice these fertility rituals to help grow their crops and produce a good harvest, in which case they would jump over brooms or pitchforks or shovels or whatever, just to encourage their crops to grow. But let's not forget the very real connection between witches and their brooms, because it is weaved into every storyline, in every book, in every piece of media, and that is flight. And that connection actually dates back to 1324, when a widow in Ireland was accused of being a witch, and investigators went to her house. Her name was Lady Alice Keitler, and investigators went to her house, and upon inspecting her home, they discovered a pipe which they said held ointment that she would use to grease herself and then dance and gallop around, insinuating that she used the ointment that would then give her the ability to fly. It is alleged by both pharmacologists and in ancient accounts that witches did make ointments that were hallucinogenic in nature. What they would do is make salves from plants, and these plants were often belladonna or hensbane or mandrake. Sometimes they would use jimson weed, and there's a whole list of other hallucinogenic options as far as plants go that might have been included in these salves. And it's said that they would rub the salve on their nethers because it was the best option for absorption into the skin. And then once the salve was applied, they would hop on their broomstick. Of course, another theory is that they would rub the salve on the broomstick and then mount the broomstick and absorb the salve that way. And regardless of how the salve would have been applied, the hallucinogenic euphoria may have given them the sensation that they were flying on a broom. And if they were feeling it, then any accidental onlookers might have thought that they were seeing something that they weren't. I don't know. The whole thing is kind of sketchy, if you ask me. But, you know, you got to have a little. But in the end, while the besom has a really rich, interesting history, I think that a lot of us current witches have actually returned to its more ancient roots, because a lot of the spells that we're using now that include a besom, and I have a real besom problem. I've got one above like every door and some just hanging around my altars. They're good luck. They keep out bad energies. You know, you can't have too many besoms. But spells involving besoms, you know, just return back to that original energy, sweeping the negativity out of your home, through the door and out of your home. And just as I said a second ago, to hang above your door, keep the bad energy out of your home that way, keep good luck inside of your home. There are so many different ways that we use them today. I don't think most of us are using them to apply hallucinogenic ointment, although I could be wrong. And if you're one of those people, let me know in the comments, because I want to know what that experience is like. I think a lot of us are just doing our random daily witchy tasks with our besoms. And honestly, I think that knowing their history is so important. And I think that having at least one in your home is also so important, because it is a super versatile tool to have in your witchy tool chest. And, you know, a once monthly energy cleanse with your broom is super helpful too, especially if you're experiencing some negativity in your life that you want to easy sweep of. So I hope that this video was informative and interesting, and I hope that you enjoyed hanging out with me today. If you did, click like, click subscribe, and keep your eyes peeled. I post a couple of times a week, and you can always visit me at my website, crowandthistle.com. We'll talk soon. Bye.